And Rick Jacklett's out here for an early presentation. They have to run real quick. So we've got a lot of thank yous, but I want to start with Rick Jacklett and the Jacklett Law Group, big dogs in a small firm, and certainly Rick Jacklett and his firm and their contributions to Jacob's Ride are significant. And I'd like to introduce, if I could, Rick Jacklett to make a presentation to Jacob real quick.
Thank you so much. You know, I've been representing injured people for 30 years, and I've never had one that has the impact on my office that Jacob has had. So we've been so very proud to step up and sponsor whatever this young man wants to do. And I promised I was going to bring him a big check tonight. Oops, I'm sorry, it's the wrong side. Jacob, come on up. Jacob told us that I want to raise $100,000 and that $10,000 would buy one cochlear implant for one child. He's riding across the entire country. I said I can sit at the desk and write you a check and help you out. So we're going to present you tonight from the Jacklett's Law Group a $10,000 check and wish you all the luck in the world in your ride. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for all the kids that have been hearing impaired. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can have that, but that's the real one.
Thank you, Rick. You're always a class act, and everyone knows what the impact that will have on Jacob's Ride. Get back to socializing, and we'll get started in a little bit.
Hi, Jacob. Hey. I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. I'm moving in 13 days.
13 days? Is that when
That's what I have to drive.
Are you driving out there?
I'm driving out west. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I can do my drive, but
Great time.
we don't have that schedule being down on it. Last time we had that foreman voting.
Oh, that's right. That's
We had that group last week.
I did. I actually had you read my
Yeah, I'll make sure she does. She gave it up for a little bit, but she loves it. Yeah, that's her passion. She's just always so tied down with she just needs like a few moments away from work. Yeah.
But you have to. You have to be present.
Something like that. I don't even know what the cloud is. They just know that you can play glass. They put one wheel in the Missouri and right across the state, and then two wheel in Mississippi. And then about 7 days, about 500 miles.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, really? You're doing a good job. Keep it up. Busy, I know. Isn't that, yeah, I saw the...
Yeah, the honeymoon ended when I submitted the budget. Everybody found out they weren't getting what they wanted.
Right. That's life.
Not a shock.
And they give me their papers, but I live on the shore.
Forever, they don't ever hamburger or something.
Dakota was really happy that day.
Trey is already over there. Don't eat here. That's what Trey said. Trey said county executive and all of the magistrate. Forget it, I was approved. Of course when you're 15, that's what you do want, right? So, all the communities come together for open cats and movie night, which is really fun. There's just a lot of love. When I was in Kansas City a few years ago, they wanted me for 4 days when I was in the Yesterday we'd have to go 200 miles back, and then another 80 miles up, and then drive another 20 miles up, and then do something in Kansas City and drive back. They wanted so much stuff going on there that we were giving them all the time they needed, and they have 2 or 3 days off. Like, instead of being glad for 1 day in each city, taking like time with a lot of it.
I'll see you for the Maryland tour. I'll be at 3 or 4 games.
That's gonna be, we're going to try to do that every year.
Attention here. We can grab a drink.
It doesn't make any difference.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for being here tonight. My name is John Lehman, and it's my distinct pleasure to be able to MC tonight's event. And I promise to keep this thing moving quickly and in deference to everybody's schedules. Appreciate everybody being here and taking the time to celebrate the work of Jacob Landis and the big work he has ahead of him. This is an event that is supportive. It's an event that's a celebration, and it's about the community being led by a young man of championship characteristics. We come here and we're brought together by a challenge that few of us experience, but a challenge to hearing that affects so many. Brought together by this challenge, but more so by a young man that takes on this challenge personally and is driven to help others as well. Jacob Landis, the son of 2 devoted and world-class parents in themselves, Randy and Lois, a young man with commitment and inspiration that far, far exceeds his years. From the very young age of 2, Lois noticed a slow development of speech and had Jacob tested. With the diagnosis of hearing issues, Jacob began wearing hearing aids in kindergarten, but by the age of 8, had lost his hearing. And at the young age of 10, Jacob received his cochlear implant. It has truly changed Jacob's life, and this young man has tied his passions of baseball, biking, and helping others into what we now call Jacob's Ride. Yes, please. 11,000 plus miles in 2014, which were unfortunately interrupted when Jacob took on a tractor trailer. While riding the interstate in Florida in his last leg into Miami, Jacob was clipped by the side of a tractor trailer and left on the side of the road. with a concussion, a shattered face, broken teeth, a broken nose, and arm damage that still challenges him. The last leg Jacob went and completed last summer and made his ride into Marlins Park. To see the impact that he has accomplished has not allowed Jacob to sit in the spotlight and smile, but has driven him to continue his commitment to help others. The commitment to ride for the gift of hearing and to get on his bike to help those that have those challenges. Jacob will mount his bike again in Ventura Beach, California for a 3,800 plus mile trip across country, arriving in Ocean City, Maryland on July 19th. So I hope many of us will be there to see him come into the beach in July. And after a quick rest and re-energizing, Jacob will embark on what he calls a quick and short ride to Jacob, and he'll ride 5 days and almost 300 miles to the Maryland minor league parks. Jacob has asked and invites as many of us that would like to join him on that ride to be a part of that ride. We're here to hear from so many of Jacob's, or some of Jacob's many supporters, but most of all to hear from the champion himself. And I thank you all again for being with us tonight. If you don't mind, real quickly, I want to run through just a couple people, and I'll make it brief, but there's a few people that need some special thanks. And I'm going to just kind of read their names and a little bit about what they've done for Jacob. Todd Parks, he has developed the new Jacob's Ride website. Get on that site and check it out. It's spectacular. Todd, thanks for what you do. Linda Newman, an Annapolis mother of a teenage cochlear recipient. She is a professor at Anne Arundel Community College, contributes tireless work to the website and collateral work for Jacob's Ride. Thank you, Linda. Jennifer Johnson, a graphic designer that developed Jacob's Ride logo and handles much of the print and the social media and the implementation of that for Jacob. Thank you so much, Jennifer. JD Mack, the videographer who did an outstanding job on the video that you'll be seeing in just a couple minutes. So I think JD's work will be validated real shortly for you. Debbie Bervenchak, Jacob's audiologist, who taught Jacob to hear and to speak after his implant. If you've talked to Jacob, you know what a job she's done, and thank you to her for all of her work. Jim Ferguson. Jim Ferguson has lent his volunteer efforts to The Voice on, again, this soon-to-see video. And Jim did a great job, and you'll all hear him in just a minute. Thank you, Jim. Dick Skinner. Dick Skinner is a do-all. He's a dear friend of Dad Landis. Randy's a good friend of Randy, a spinner with Senator McMillan out there. He is at AAC, a former Marine, and he's going to be driving the chase car during a critical junction of this summer's ride, which will be a long haul from Omaha to St. Louis. So Dick, thank you for your friendship and your commitment to everybody. Brian Johnson. Brian is a trainer that got Jacob in shape for this 2013 ride of 11,000 plus miles. Not only got Jacob in shape, but has taught Jacob how to stay in shape. And as a result of his results are evident right here and will be displayed again this summer through his rides. Brian, thanks. And a big fan, one of his biggest fans, is Jacob's sister, Sarah. Sarah will graduate in May from Towson. I understand from talking to Jacob there will be a big party to celebrate her graduation, although Jacob is going to be heading west when Sarah actually graduates. But what a great friend for his sister. She's getting her communications major at the university, and she is the director of communications and public relations for Jacob's Ride. Sarah, thank you for everything. And special sponsors. For those of you that were here earlier, we had a tremendous presentation here by the Jacklich law firm. Rick Jacklich presented a check to Jacob for $10,000 today, which is the cost of a cochlear implant. So Rick just financed a cochlear implant, which is what Jacob's Ride is all about. So we thank Rick for that. The Crofton Rotary has been a big supporter of Jacob, has been a big supporter of his rides, his agenda, all of the logistics of everything. And that group from the Crofton Rotary, we so appreciate, and we'll be hearing from some of them in just a little bit. A great family and a great support group, certainly dear to Landis family and dear to so many of us in the Annapolis area, and good friends of mine are the Brady Real Estate Group, which is Kathy McMillan, Carrie Dion, and Libby Brady. Thanks, guys, for all you do over there. And for your real estate needs, they're the two ladies down there are in charge of that, so make sure you see them. Advanced Biotics, big supporter of Jacob, and they are the Cochlear product. They are the people behind Cochlear. Thank you to Advanced Biotics. Jennifer Navabi, the Executive Director of the Annapolis Community Foundation. That's who we make our contributions to. She facilitates that, and we appreciate all their support. Always, Jennifer, thank you. Pete Edmondo, thank you for all of your support. Thanks for your contributions. Thanks for your friendship and your support of Jacob's Ride, always. Henry Peck of Geiger Pump and Equipment stepped up and has made a great contribution. We appreciate that. Henry, appreciate your group, and again, your friendship and support for Jacob's Ride. At this time, I just want to take a couple minutes, and it's short, but have a chance to look at this great video that's been provided, that's been produced, and the great job that they did that really, really reflects what Jacob and Jacob's Ride is all about. Absolutely spectacular. Got a couple of people that we'd like to ask to say a few words. Brevity is going to be a virtue tonight as we got a group to get through, but certainly we want some people that would like to share some thoughts and reflect on Jacob and what he means to them and his efforts and what he's doing for the community and for this through this great challenge and this commitment that he's made and continues to make. And the lead off is, again, I talked a little bit about the special thanks, and one of the groups that we talked about was that Crofton Rotary, and I'd like to ask Roger Morrison to come up and step up and just share a little bit with you real quick. Roger Morrison.
Thank you. Last year, members of our club, Wes and Helen Sherman, seated over here, brought to our attention a young man who might be a good speaker at our club meeting. Well, Jacob came and spoke, and we were hooked. Later on that year, we had to come up to a decision on to give out our highest award of the year to the person who most epitomized the service above self motto of Rotary. It was unanimous, Jacob. So during our gala, we were honored to be able to have him as an honored guest to give him the award, and later, just about a month ago, we were able to present the award again to him, along with some of the other Annapolis clubs for the Service Above Self dinner right here in Annapolis. So he's an inspiring young man. We're a big fan of his, and it was a result of what we did. Rotary is going to do a little bit more about it. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that, but we're there for the long haul with Jacob. Congratulations, Jacob, and Godspeed for you on your ride.
Roger, thank you. Thanks for all the support you give Jacob and your friendship. Next, I'd like to invite Fred Payon. Fred Payon is an alderman here in Annapolis, a great friend of the families and a great supporter of Jacob's Ride, and I'd like him to share a couple words with you.
John, thank you very much. You're absolutely right. The Landis family is a wonderful neighbors and great friends. I don't know about you, but I think after watching that video, I have to say that if you don't get the message, you've got rocks in your head or stone in your heart. This is an absolutely wonderful event that we need to get behind. We read all the time about organizations that simply don't spend the money that we give them on the things we think they're spending them on. Well, in this case, just about every dime that Jacob collects goes right to the cause of cochlear implants for deaf people, particularly deaf children. And it is money well spent. Come on, folks. Time to get the checkbook out and empty the wallet a little bit. Thank you.
Fred, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite someone up that everybody's familiar with, and again, someone who's very prominent in our community, Herb McMillan. I kind of refer to Herb as just the senator. And welcome, Herb, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, John. I don't know if John Astle will care too much for that characterization, though. But I've been my pleasure to know Randy and his family for a long time. They've been a great help to me. Randy, you say you can't hear, but I hear really great because I'm right behind this loudspeaker. I'll try to speak up a little bit. But, you know, a lot of times you hear about sweat equity. It's a very common term. But if you think about it, this young man is going to bike across the United States in a very short amount of time. And he's got his family helping him and a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that I'm good friends with are volunteering their time to help him. So, really, this is a very lean charity. There's not a middleman here. The money is going to go to help these children. And that's why I'm so proud to come out here tonight and help my friend who's helped me so many times. I've always known he was selfless. I've always known his family was selfless in their devotion to a cause. And this is a great cause. So I just want to thank you all so much for helping to support it. I want to wish Jacob a great ride. And thank you all so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Herb. Thanks for those great words. And certainly we're all here to support what Jacob's doing, and it just helps to be endorsed and have guys like Herb McMillan and everyone here behind Jacob's efforts. We talked about the Rotary and the Crofton Rotary and just the Rotary in general. And I'd like to invite Bill Fine, who's the District Governor of Rotary International, a dear friend of and supporter of Jacob's Ride, and a huge coordinator of Jacob's coming cross-country trip.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Jacob cut his teeth on Parole Rotary Club, my local club, a long time ago before the first ride. So it's great to see all this going on. I want to deviate just for a second to tell you about our international president who's from Taiwan. He's convinced that Confucius was the first Rotarian ever, even though he died 2,000 years before Rotary was started. Because Confucius said, it is better to light a single candle than to sit and curse the darkness. There's something going on here. This young man and what he is doing is taking his creativity and his challenge to the forefront for the benefit of all. This is truly what Rotary is about, which is service above self, which is why we are backing Jacob all the way through. We hope to fill all the stadiums here in Maryland with Rotarians at the minor league ride that's coming up, and I encourage you to support this young man because he is living proof of what one person's idea and creativity put to use can make happen in the world. It's all good stuff, and it all starts with us and with Jacob. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for all that your organization does in supporting Jacob's Ride. Anna Gilmore was en route to here and had to be diverted, unfortunately, for an emergency. But Anna represents and is the executive director of the Hearing Loss Association of America. And obviously, that group has a lot to do with what drives Jacob. And her group are recipients of what Jacob is doing and has a big impact on the support of Jacob and his commitment to Jacob's Ride. And unfortunately, she's not able to get here to speak to us. But the next gentleman I'd like to introduce is pretty familiar with the hearing loss, with Jacob's Ride, and with Cochlear. a world-renowned surgeon and an expert in the ear and the cochlear world. I'd like to introduce Dr. Howard Francis, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm inspired this evening, as I was last year. But I am now seeing a vision evolve here. Jacob is really looking at hearing loss as a cause that is worth promoting and sharing with all of you and with all of us. Hearing loss is one of the most common disabilities in newborn children. 1 in 500 children have a hearing loss. It is not uncommon, and its impact on the lifetime of an individual and the lifetime of a community is quite significant. We see what this intervention can provide. Of course, we have to say thanks to Jacob's parents, but also to individuals such as Deb Bravinchuk, who's sitting here. The the surgery that I perform is a 2-hour procedure. But here we have really the effects and the outcome of many years of ongoing rehabilitation. This is not available to all people. Access is an issue. And what Jacob is doing is making it possible for us to now imagine that this could be made available to all the children in this country if we can really take this where it should go. I want to thank you, Jacob, for inspiring me, for making my job easier, for making all of our jobs easier, because you are such a figure. You're someone who's so inspiring to everyone. I can speak for myself, but I know that when you're on that ride, there are people there that are saying, that's who I want to be. This is big, and we're extremely honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. It's kind of neat to hear a different side and hearing from someone of Dr. Francis's degree and pedigree and what he's done and his familiarity with this, and talk about what a great thing it is to see Jacob and see him be able to be in the hearing world and to be able to do the things that he does. And if you haven't had a chance to have a conversation with Jacob, you're missing it, because wow, it's unbelievable to see a young man who's as articulate and as well spoken and as thoughtful in his verbiage and the way he speaks is just incredible. And it's neat to hear you, Doctor, talk about those kind of things. And thanks for being here. And then before we hear from our man Jacob, I'd like to introduce a guy that's very special to the Landis family, to Jacob's ride, and is really special to all of us in this area. And that's our new county executive, Steve Shue.
Thank you, John. Hi, everybody. What a great event. I am so happy to be here. Events like this probably mean something a little different to every one of us. To me, it means 3 things. One is the power of technology to improve lives. The advances that we've seen in our lifetime with heart stents and valves, artificial knees and hips, and now cochlear implants are incredible. And these implants are enabling people who have lost their hearing to live productive lives and to reach their full potential as human beings. It's amazing. And it also is about determination for me. When I think about Jacob, I think he's probably the most determined person that I've ever met. And not only because he overcame his own disability, but because he went even further. He turned that disability on its head and has used it as a tool to help other people, hundreds, if not thousands of other people. It's incredible what you've done, Jacob, and we just admire your determination and strength as a person. And finally, this event and this whole undertaking and every step of Jacob's life has been about family. Randy and Lois, the Landis family, has been there for this young man every step of the way. And it's a pretty sure bet that this ride wouldn't have happened and you wouldn't be where you are without your mom and dad helping you along the way. And yeah, let's give it up for Randy and Lois. And you know what? As I think about it, there's a fourth thing. This event's about generosity and a helping hand. All of you, one way or another, have decided that you wanted to be part of this, to reach out and extend of yourself, your time, your energy, or your hard-earned money to help bring this amazing technology to more children. So thank all of you for being here, and thank all of you for being part of this. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. And without any further ado, and thank you all for everyone being here. Thanks for those that took time to speak and share some of your thoughts tonight. Thanks to everybody who has made contributions to make this happen. But certainly at this time, we'd like to hear from the champion himself and let Jacob have a chance to reflect a little bit and talk to you all about what he's done, what he's accomplished, and where he's gone next. Jacob.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I just want to say a special thank you to everybody that's made it here tonight and helping with our big fundraiser. 13 days I'll be leaving the state of Maryland, driving out to California. The ride's going to start on the 26th. But it makes me look back, because I know that when I started out at Whole Foods 2 years ago in 2013, I never knew that the ride would turn into what it has become. When I took my first pedal strokes, the distance that lay ahead of me was staggering. The time commitment of 6 months was also a source of stress. You see, I love riding my bike, and I love baseball. But it was quickly apparent that my love for either of those two would do nothing to me to help me propel those pedals. When I left Boston to go to Toronto, I began climbing hills larger than I ever have in my life. When I was west of Worcester, Massachusetts, up until I got to the Finger Lakes in western New York, that was my first real trial. Those first few hills on that ride, I really felt like I was in the Tour de France. I was out of the saddle. I was pushing a much bigger gear than I should have been. At the end of the day, that first day of the hills, I looked at the ride data on my phone, and it included the elevation graph. For all intents and purposes that night, I felt like a champion. I thought that I was still on the way down a very, very large hill. But the next day proved me wrong. The hills began immediately, and I realized how much work this ride would ultimately become. To wake up knowing that you have to ride 85 miles that day, and then have your legs protest from the minute that you start, it's a tough thing to wake up to sometimes. So sometimes I had to stop. And I thought about how sad it would be if I could not make it to Toronto less than 1 month into the trip. I thought of all the money that had been raised up to that point, and I also thought of all the money that would not be raised if I had stopped. I would lose out in those 5 months of fundraising. So I had to stop. The thing about crossing the Appalachian Mountains is that we have a constant up and down. The mountains are very old and eroded, and they're not very big. In the Rockies, you can climb one large mountain 7 miles per hour all day, and then you can get your last 30 miles in at 35, 45 miles per hour. But in Appalachia, in one day, you're going to have 15 to 20 occasions in which you're struggling to even spin your smallest gear, followed by a quick descent only to watch your next hill rise right in front of you. So I had to stop. I didn't know how to ride my bike uphill so steep. I never have done it before. I had never even shifted into some of those gears. So I stopped, and just to keep the integrity of the ride intact, I would not walk. I would stop and I would just count to 30. I'd put both of my hands on the handlebars and I would just look down. I couldn't look up. My cousin, I knew he was 15 miles up the road, waiting for me, a phone call and a protein shake away. But I resolved not to call him. And I got back on the bike. And at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I would complain at the end of the day if there were any stairs at the hotel to climb. And the next day, The next day, my legs would only protest louder. There were two things that made it very possible for me to say, "Shut up, legs." One of them was to go to the games and meet in many ballparks hundreds of supporters. It was breathtaking. Seeing an entire section of blue seats in St. Louis was awesome. Watching a whole game with children with implants, watching them talk and interact, that was something else. To see a shy child who had never met a single implant user in their life open up within the scope of just a 3-hour baseball game was something that gives me the need to do this ride again. There's one other thing that helped me say, "Shut up, legs," and that was an almost daily loss of my hearing. There were usually 15 to 25 miles, sometimes more, every day, where I rode without my ears on due to the limits of our technology. It was hard to keep my batteries charged all the time with only a battery inverter in the van. Those miles when I was deaf was always interesting to me because it was a startling reminder of why I was riding in the first place. All of a sudden, I can't hear the wind. I can't hear the trucks passing me until the wind pulls me toward them. I don't hear the waves of the lake or the running river. I don't hear the train rolling by, even though I can feel it in my chest. Losing my hearing in those few miles made me feel naked. Being deaf is my natural state. I am one dead battery, one snipped headpiece cable away from losing all of my hearing at once. And technically, I don't even possess hearing. I have a digital representation of sound, which my brain interprets as hearing. The sheer miracle of what technology has accomplished is just nothing short of amazing. Whatever you want to call it, the digital representation of sound, it's something that I enjoy a lot, and it's given me the ability to live a very productive and fulfilling life. I think, when I see cyclists out there riding around and they have headphones on, I think they're being really silly because they're robbing themselves from the complete experience of what a bike ride can be. When I ride, it's only a small part of what I use my hearing for in everyday life. It's a miracle to me. So as I set out to leave in 2 weeks for another cross-country trip, I know that it will not be easy. I have had a very minimal amount of time to get ready to properly train because I'm a full-time student in school and I've been working full-time. But I know that I will not let any of you down. Instead of the Appalachians, I will immediately begin by crossing the Sierra Nevadas and then the Rocky Mountains. Hopefully what I did 2 years ago is the training that I need. But if I do have to stop on any of those hills in the early legs, I promise I will get back on that bike. And I count to 30, I get back on and I continue up that hill. Tonight, I have all of you to look back upon. All of you have more than funded the ride. We are already well into the point where every dollar that we raise is directly changing the lives of individuals. I will not stop. I have a lot of people I want to thank tonight. I want to have a huge thank you to the operations team, including Advanced Bionics, their area representatives. I want to say thank you to the Gifted Hearing Foundation and all the wonderful work that they do. I want to thank Bob Fine. I want to thank all the Rotary clubs. I want to say thank you to Jennifer and the Annapolis Community Foundation. I have a huge thank you for Todd Parks and Linda Newman, who've rebuilt an entire website in a short amount of time. I want to thank my sister for doing our social media, and I want to thank Nadine Money for doing our social media evaluation and analytics. I want to thank John Hopkins for my 16-year-old journey with the cochlear implant, Dr. Howard Francis, Deborah Vinshock, and Jennifer Yeagle, John Parker, my surgeon. I have another huge thank you to Rick Jacklish and his platinum level contribution, John Wayman, Henry Peck for their continued support and generous donations. Thank you for Alan Hyatt for putting it all together and creating Jacob's Ride, legally speaking. I want to thank all of you guys for making it tonight, everyone that spoke tonight. Thanks, Steve, Herb. Thanks, John. Thank you.
Pretty outstanding. You know, he talks about riding those hills, and shoot, I think some of us, including myself, I got to pull over on the side of the road and take a nap when I'm driving to Ocean City. You know, this guy's talking about pedaling the hills, and you know, I guess it puts a new meaning to us that when we're griping and panicking when our cell phone's getting ready to die. Don't have enough power on his cell phone. He's talking about losing his cochlear ear, and the battery runs dead, and all of a sudden he becomes Jacob Landis, who's deaf, riding his bike, can't hear the train, can't hear the brook, can't hear the trucks or the wind going by his ear. It's pretty incredible, and yet what he's accomplished. Thanks everybody for being here. Lois, Randy, thanks for letting me be a part of this. Jake, awesome, so cool. It's unbelievable. And as many of the people that spoke tonight encouraged people to donate, I know that Mr. Payon stepped up and wrote a check before he got even finished talking. I think he had his check written. We appreciate all of that. We appreciate all of you. And I can just ask that we find the chance and the goodness in our hearts to be able to help and to spread the word. I think that's the one thing that we can really help for Jacob and Jacob's ride, is to spread the word about what he's doing, because it's pretty incredible when you look and see what he's done. And now he's getting ready in 2 weeks to kick off again. So I just encourage all of us to help let everybody know and ask other people to be a part of this. Jacob, wind at your back, buddy. Go after it. You know, all of us here, all of us that cannot be here, I know they're thinking of you. Our love and support is with you, and we'll see you in Ocean City. Have a great trip. Everybody, thank you, and stay around, stick around. There's no hurry to get out of here, and thanks for being here.
We're going to be opening the dam at 11. I don't have a work schedule yet. Next Monday. Is that week?
I am. You going to the game?
I don't have a work schedule yet, but
7 tonight. Why can't you go? You can't get that off?
I've been back to my location in Annapolis.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.